right? It's been estimated. It's been a range in between $1 to $3 billion of black folks' money gone, right? 1874. So you may have a generation from 1875 until 1930 that had an experience where there was an inheritance that they were not able to bring on due to the issues within the bank. So when great grandma says she don't trust the bank, it don't come from the air, right? So there is a reality of the role banks have played, and we don't have to get into all the different examples from from the FHA lending to some of the guidelines and the underwriting. We don't got to get into that historically. I just wanted to paint the picture that in the black community, banks aren't necessarily seen as an asset, right? Can you speak to some of the misconceptions or some of the, we'll just say, frustrations someone may have, and specifically for business owners as they look to acquire lending, and then we can get into some of the steps they need to take before they make a phone call to someone like a Corey Green?
That's a great, question and setup, Coop, for this conversation. I am the first to acknowledge, once I learned the history of banking, that it wasn't cool for black folks. And they were very intentional on excluding access and not making these, ways available for people to grow and build and be what is considered the American dream. Right. And you can go all the way through policies and all of that, but the bottom line is there was a dedicated effort specifically around black people to keep us away from these things. Right. And so, again, now you fast forward and you've had generations of this experience, and even if it wasn't the core of what was going on, the residual effect of what's happening, the residual effect of how that experience even felt nowadays, reinforces that initial thing, right? So, banks have had a lot of work to do to try to earn the trust of folks that we had intentionally not wanting to do business with. So, that is a very real thing. That's a very real feeling in our community, and it didn't come from just anywhere. It came from the real experience of our forefathers, if you will. And now you fast forward to 2021, and I still hear the same remnants of that same complaint. And when the thing I try to really encourage people to think through is, hey, you see a lot of nice houses, because the thing I hear is that banks don't want to lend black folks money. Right. And I say, well, have you been to any neighborhood where black folks live? Them houses, that's loan. Them nice cars, probably loans. The things that we're doing on a day-to-day basis, a lot of that is credit-based as well. So to say that we're not, or banks are not lending money in black communities, I don't think that's an accurate picture. But I don't think banks have really made the leveling of the playing field that's needed to do the catch-up work. Right? So you can say, all right, we're starting from here and we're going to go forward and everybody's equal. But the build up to how that person got here versus what kind of struggles and strife has gone on to keep that person from the black man from getting there. That has to be overcome. Right? And so two things I will highlight as you asked me about black business owners. But first, the pain. We got to acknowledge that.
That's good.
Right? That is a real thing when your dream has been killed at the door.
That's
when
good.
When you have been denied over and over, and then it's been reinforced by situations that you're aware of, and now it's been exposed to where everybody knows what the deal was.
That's good.
Now, to combat that, the federal government came out with Community Reinvestment Act, and so there are a lot of initiatives that force banks to lend in our community. So banks have money, banks have an initiative, banks have an appetite, but they say, well, you still got to come this way. Right? We're going to evaluate you like we evaluate everybody else. So that's credit score, that's cash flow, that's collateral in some points, that's debt to income. Those basic things are really kind of the core of a deal. And if you have not had that historical training, that historical balance of how do I manage my finances, even if the door is open right now, you can't qualify based on the lack of having these items. So one theory is we need to reevaluate how we're evaluating loans. If we are very serious about really getting capital there, then we got to reevaluate something. Right? And really identify where that gap is, put the resources there to get that overcome, and then make it available. And then you talk about the business owner, right? And their plight of wanting to gain access to capital to build their business or grow their business, etc. But I'll say this to you as an entrepreneur, Coop. Mm-hmm. This field that you're in, there are no guarantees. I salute every entrepreneur because it takes guts, it takes a risk, it takes a vision, it takes persistence, but it also takes your own resources to get your business off the ground. Yep. There is no promise to anybody, black or white, that the bank gonna partner with you and invest in your dream.
That's a fact.
We're not investing in your dream. Banks are not there to invest in your theory. Banks sell money. Banks are for-profit institutions. And the way banks make money are off fees, loans, origination, overdraft, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But quit saying that I run a lot of money through your bank, so you should do this. That's like you telling the governor of Alabama, I passed through your state, you should give me some money for that. She's like, well, you only became a liability when you entered my state.
Uh-oh.
Did you stop and do some business at some of my restaurants?
Oh.
Did you buy some gas? Are you paying taxes there? So the fact that money is moving through doesn't make that what you think it is.
Yeah.
Because banks have to account for your money.
Right.
Banks are doing you a service by sending your money real time where you want it to go.
Right. Right.
And if something happened to your money, guess who you coming to get it back? The bank.
Yep.
So you sell insurance.
Yep. Yep.
All insurance has premiums. So when you talk about FDIC insurance and that being important to you, just know that comes with a cost. Every time a dollar moves, it costing somebody something.
Right.
So please don't misconstrue how banks make money. And I say all of that to say you have to really know what you're dealing with when you walk into a bank.
Right.
They're not a partner in your dream. I've never told anyone, the bank loves that dream. We just gonna invest into your business plan. Like, lending is based on historical facts. Yeah. Facts meaning tax returns. Yeah. Receipts. Profit and loss statements. Those are the things that you base the lending on, not necessarily the vision or the person or the need.
Yeah. Yeah.
The need doesn't determine or move the bank on whether or not you're going to get the money or not. Yeah. Your ability to qualify for that loan is the biggest determining factor in such. Right. So for every entrepreneur out there, I know there's pain. I know you believe in your vision. I know you've gone to banks and different people and said, hey, I got this thing going. I just need some help. Right. The last thing a bank is going to do is invest into a struggling business. So there is no loan to rescue your bank, your business from a bank. I'm talking about traditional banking now. Right. Now, I'm not speaking for any other side category of lending. I'm talking about traditional banking. And so don't walk in there struggling and think that here's the crutch. Right. Banks are going to lend to folks that they have a high propensity to pay you back. That's the whole point. We want the money back plus some. Yeah. So that's a lot, Coop.
That's good.
But what I would also challenge people on carrying forward the offense.
That's good.
You gotta forgive to free yourself, first of all. That's just personal. But you can't really expect somebody to look past all the offense and figure out what you're really talking about. Yeah. And so I liken it to this. There are now all kind of black players at the University of Alabama. Yep. SEC. Yep. And at a certain point in time, there were 0. Yeah. So the university said, nah, little buddy, you can't play here. But we have forgotten that. We all out here roll tide, and I ain't got nothing against that. Yeah. But what I'm saying is nobody is holding it against Alabama right now that, hey, back in the 60s or the 50s or whatever, you didn't let us play. Yeah. No, every time you get an opportunity you're going to show up, you're going to support, you're going to act like there ain't nothing happened because we right here right now, it's all good. Yeah. And you need to walk into the bank like that.
That's good. That's good.
Let that offense go. Figure out what it takes to get done what you're looking to get done. But from a startup standpoint, Coop, and an entrepreneur standpoint, I haven't figured out yet, and I've been in it almost 20 years now. How do you lend to a startup? Because banks ain't doing it. Yeah. Yep. And so just know when you decide to become an entrepreneur, that is your choice. Yeah. That is your baby. That is your vision, and that's your responsibility.
Yep.
So if you get help, that's a bonus.
Yep.
But you probably want to plan it out first. The ones that I have been seen be successful are the ones that are able to transition from something into that.
Right.
But I've also seen somebody grind it out and just build on what you have and be persistent and consistent.
Yep.
Until you build up enough track record to have the documents that it takes to even be evaluated for a loan.
Yep. Yep. That's strong. That is one, I empathize with that because myself, I've gone through it. I've said, man, let me tell you this idea, and go to the bank and they say, it don't work like that, sir. And also have taken the steps to make sure my credit reflects what it needs to reflect, make sure that I connect with an accountant, make sure my taxes are up to date, make sure I have P&L statements to be able to reflect, make sure I'm processing payroll, right, paying my taxes, all these different steps to say, okay, now when I go back to the bank, and this is probably one of the best advice that I've received from C. Green is, hey, bro, leave your feelings in the car. Like, as a matter of fact, leave it in the back seat. It's just... And you have to do that because, again, your vision you're passionate about. You're the typically, and I say this with businesses that will be sustainable and they will grow and have scale. If you're solving a problem, you got a valuable business. And so you're connected to the problem that you're solving. And sometimes anything that you feel like that may disrupt that, you like, hey, bro, come meet me in the bathroom. I don't know how. Look at my paperwork one more time, and it's similar. And I'm glad you use insurance as the example. We were just helping a client with some of their life insurance. And he said, man, why they asking me all this? Why I got to do all that? I said, you want $1 million of coverage, right? Yes. Okay. As of right now, it's showing around $30-some a month. So put yourself as the insurance company. All right. We are going to receive $30 a month. All right. If we don't ask the right questions to make sure he doesn't pass away 91 days from now, we done gave him $90. We done received $90, and now we got to shell out $1 million. So it's just if the moment you put yourself in their shoes, you'll say, let me not take this personal. How are you making money? How are they making money? And am I a viable candidate for that? And the moment you can take your feelings out of it, that's when you can start realizing really the responsibility that it's going to take. But also just as business owners, at the end of the day, black-owned businesses, white-owned business, regardless, at the end of the day, you got to make sure you document. You got to make sure your paperwork is in point. Because like you said, we're not going to fund what you see for the future. We're going to fund what you're able to display. Now, let me see your historical records. Let me see those previous statements to justify why I'm going to set aside $35,000. Now, those statements are going to dictate because credit is an example of what you've been able to sacrifice in some form or fashion. There's folks that may say, man, I got $30,000 in credit cards. Well, you showed a level of discipline to be able to be approved for $30,000. One. But two, you have to make sure that in any type of situation you're looking to use someone else's money. All right. And my good people at the Dannon Project, we talk about this. Hey, Jimmy come down the street and say, bro, let me borrow $500. And everybody know on the block, like, man, Jimmy ain't gonna pay you back. You gonna give Jimmy $500? Probably not. That was a risk assessment, right? And so I think it's good for us to acknowledge the factual experience that may have occurred in particular neighborhoods with especially black folks, but also acknowledge the opportunities that exist, right? Like the opportunities are here. There is just two sides of the equation. There is a development and exposure and an incubation of the education in the how you need to prepare yourself to become bankable. And then the work to get it done, right? And so with one group, they just haven't had that exposure because if you want to become a business owner, 9 times out of 10, you saw one within your household or you were able to be exposed to one. And so all of that is extremely important.
Stay right there on risk assessment. Just the parallel between that life insurance policy and a loan application. Right. Both of them are requiring someone else to fund the majority of the value. That's good. Right? Yeah. And so there are things that you don't even control about your own disposition as it relates to insurance. Yeah. That do factor into your risk rating. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Family history. You ain't got nothing to do with that. Did somebody else die of this? You ain't got nothing to do with that. Right. But those things do impact how you rate it and ultimately your pricing of approval or not.
Right. Right.
So, it's like